speak this morning. I had something I wanted to say.
Okay, I want to bring up a few points about Bob Joyce and his settling of the matter of the controversy: is he Elvis or not? Bob Joyce is a pastor of a small church, and he became famous because he sounds very much like Elvis. He sung like an American trilogy in some thing, and he sounded just like Elvis. And this was like in 2013. No one ever really heard of him before then. Certainly never heard of him until then, until people started and still, and like, because I'm a big Elvis fan. Uh, I I I got I came across Bob Joyce, and I can't deny that he sounds just like an old Elvis. Even when he talks, he sounds like an old Elvis. And so who is this guy? This guy who sounds like Elvis, who we only get to see. We got no footage of him singing when he's younger, and yet he's got this amazing voice. I mean, he could be the greatest Elvis impersonator there is, and yet we don't hear about him until he's older. How old is he? I don't know. He's good for his age. A lot. There's so many things weird about it. Why isn't there a young footage of Bob Joyce singing? Why is he only singing now? Why only we're hearing about him now? But okay, just let's hear what he has to say first.
Certain issues come up lately,
Yeah, because people think you're Elvis.
and I want to settle it. Uh, I want y'all to know that I, Bob Joyce, am not, nor ever have been, any other person but me.
See, he says that, but why doesn't? Okay, so, I mean, he's being very coy, very. Why doesn't he mention the word Elvis? You're talking about Elvis. People think you're Elvis. You've gained a massive following, like over 10,000 followers or whatever, probably more now, because they think you're Elvis, which would never have happened if people didn't think you're Elvis, and they think you're Elvis because you sound like Elvis. So don't pretend that you used that to get fame, to get attention. Now, I don't doubt his sincerity. I do believe he believes in God. I mean, and Jesus, and he's not trying to con people. And he's trying to get the message out there. I agree with his message and stuff like that. There's nothing that he says theologically that I disagree with. And I don't think he's conning anyone, because with his voice, he could have a good career as a singer. He doesn't need to con people and be a pastor. But why be so coy? Why not mention Elvis? Why never mention Elvis in his... He's talking about Elvis. And he did sing American Trilogy and sounded just like Elvis. So don't pretend. And in that, it's nothing wrong with that, but he sounds just like Elvis, and that's the issue. But why not mention the issue? Why can't Bob Joyce say, I am not Elvis Presley? Right, listen, he never says it.
I am not trying to lead people to believe or make.
Oh, but you do sound just like Elvis. And you've produced albums and you sound just like Elvis, an old Elvis. And you did sing American Trilogy. You didn't say you were Elvis, but you won't. But you did use it. Like in the early days, they didn't. There was no like in his web pages and stuff. It was like no one said anything. But when he gained a good big following, it was like then he was like, we We don't want anyone saying that I'm Elvis. But that was the thing. That's why they were there. I mean, you can't deny that Elvis, you used Elvis in that way, if you're not Elvis, to gain followers. But why not mention the name?
Can believe that I'm somebody that I'm not. If anybody says so, they're wrong. This church is not running some kind of scam or scheme to make money, to get a following.
Ah, but he is to get a following. He is doing it to get a following. That's a lie. Not to make money, but he has used Elvis. No one would have even known who this guy was if he didn't sing American Trilogy and didn't sound just like Elvis. No one would know who this guy was. He'd be just another small-time preacher of a small-time church. And they do important jobs. You know, that's the most important thing to be a preacher. When Jesus said to Peter, feed my sheep, this was the guy he said, on my church, on this rock, you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church. And when he said to Peter, before he ascended, feed my sheep, that is how he builds the church. That no one is in the line of Peter other than people whose job it is to feed the sheep. And so it's a very important job, probably the most important job. That's how the church is built, by feeding the sheep. That's the church's job, to feed the sheep. That's the pastor's job, to feed the sheep. But he has used Elvis to gain a following. The question is he Elvis? Why doesn't he say, I'm not Elvis?
To make people believe that I'm somebody that I'm not.
That's not true. You did play the Elvis card.
Now, I could name some names here, but you know, I'm supposed to be at least one of three different people.
So why don't you say one of them?
I got to be one of them. I can't be myself. I've got to be one of those guys.
So why not mention Elvis?
But I'm neither one of them. I am Bob Joyce. I was born.
Yeah, but why don't you mention who are you talking about, Bob? Why, you know, Elvis is the big issue. So why not say I am not Elvis? You know who you're talking about. Why don't you answer it and say that? Why be coy?
Born Bob Joyce, and I will die Bob Joyce.
Right, so there's that one. And there's this
We're
one.
trying to preach the gospel and be a blessing to others.
I do believe that. I believe he's sincere in his preaching. I don't believe that he does sincerely exalt Jesus and the gospel. Okay, but his claim to fame is because people think that is not what made you famous, Bob. Preaching the gospel will never make anyone famous. Your fame is due to the fact that you sound like Elvis. And you were an older guy who come out of nowhere and sounded just like Elvis. And so a lot of people think you're Elvis. I don't know myself. I can't listen to his music anymore because I'm sick of always. Every time I hear him, I'm thinking, is that Elvis or not Elvis? Is that Elvis or not Elvis? Is that Elvis? Because it sounds like Elvis. And I just can't deal with it anymore, so I just don't listen to it. I listen to the old Elvis gospel songs because I know that that's Elvis. But, I mean, Bob Joyce is either Elvis, but he looks good for his age. That's the problem. He'd be like 90-something now or 90. So he looks damn good for his age. But healthy living, it's not. I think Dick Van Dyke's like 100 or 99 or something. It's not impossible, right? And God can give people strength and longevity and stuff like that. Wisdom, the Psalms say that, you know, long life, obeying God will bring long life and stuff like that. Everything's, and he could have plastic surgery. You know, plastic surgery on the nose changes the whole center of his face. Okay, look at Michael Jackson. He changed completely from being an African American to a white lady. You know, but plastic surgery can change your face. So His nose has been changed, but his voice sounds like Elvis. So he's either Elvis or he's Vernon's love child or he's Elvis's love child, because there was that guy, that Orion, who sounded a lot like Elvis. A lot like Elvis, but Bob Joyce sounds just like Elvis to me. He sounds like an old Elvis. He sounds like what Elvis would sound like at this age. But I need to know, before I can listen to this guy anymore, I need to know, is it who he is? He needs to do a DNA test or something. Is he Vernon's love child? Is he Elvis's love child, or is he Elvis? Or is he Elvis's twin brother who was given up to adoption rather than died? Is there a grave of Elvis's twin brother? I don't know. Who knows? But why why doesn't he mention Elvis ever, when that is the issue?
And if people come here for any other reason then you're coming for the wrong reason. If you're here for that reason, then you're here for the right one. We're not here to support a man. We're here to support Jesus Christ. We're not here to because of some other reason, but for Him only.
I
and what God
believe
is
that.
doing in this world, and we're just all part of it. Amen.
I do believe his sincerity, but he can't. Why doesn't he mention Elvis? And he did. He kind of stood back and let it all happen. And his claim to fame is because people think he's Elvis, and he sings like Elvis. So why doesn't he say the word, "I'm not Elvis"? That's
I
the
want to
question.
make that very clear. I am not
Elvis?
anybody else but who I am.
What are you talking about, Bob? Talking about
And I'm
Elvis?
not pretending
We don't have to pretend if you are.
to be somebody else. Now, that's clear. And now the case is closed.
No, it's clear as mud, and it's not
over
closed
with, it's done, it's
because
finished, it's
you
through.
never actually could
It's
say the
done.
word.
It's over with.
No,
I
it's
don't hear
not.
no more about it from anybody.
It's made it 10 times worse, Bob.
Amen? Is that all right with everybody?
No.
Okay, God bless you. Amen. Another thing.
Another thing.
Every CD of my singing and every DVD.
Yeah, your singing sounds just like Elvis. Who are you, Bob? Where have you been all my life? You come here now singing like Elvis at this age? You know, come on.
Of any message that I preach that's been sold for whatever amount. I don't even really know the amount myself because I don't set the price. Somebody else does. We kind of come to agreement on some things, but whatever it is, I don't know. But whatever is sold, every dollar goes to the church.
Well, that's fair enough. Yeah. So there you go. Why didn't he mention Elvis is the issue? The big issue, the only issue. There's no other issue. You're the Elvis, or maybe the Elvis's twin brother, or whatever. Elvis did have a twin brother who died at birth. Whoever or whatever you are, why have you only come out now? Why is there no footage of you singing when you're young, when you have that voice? Come on. Come on, this is so transparent, so obvious. And he couldn't say it for two reasons. Okay, this is my conclusion. He couldn't mention Elvis because he is Elvis, and he couldn't lie in the church. He'd be lying. He's technically not lying if he's legally changed his name, but he did say he was always Bob Joyce. He's no one else. He was always Bob Joyce since maybe he had his fingers crossed in his pocket. I don't know. He was always Bob Joyce since he changed his name. Elvis is legally dead, and he's legally someone else. You know, there's ways he can get around it, thinking that. But so that's the first one reason why I couldn't say he was Elvis, because he is Elvis. The second reason he can't say Elvis is because he knows that's why his claim to fame is, because people think he's Elvis, and he doesn't want to lose that. And in that sense, he is deceiving. But why couldn't you just say the name, Bob? Why couldn't you talk about the man who is the real issue? You know what Abraham Lincoln said? You can fool all the people some of the time, or some of the people all the time, but you cannot fool all the people all the time. That was you love the Constitution and American so much. So there's something not right about this. Where did you come from? What, with that voice? I don't doubt his sincerity as a preacher. He could easily make money being the best Elvis impersonator in the world. He could record great country and western songs and stuff like that. He doesn't. Yeah, he's either is Elvis or he did intentionally use Elvis to get fame, because people would not know him to this extent if they did not think he was Elvis, and that's a fact. And why didn't he mention the name Elvis? It's only made the issue for me worse. But I can't listen to your music until I know either way.